Hi everyone, it's me, Darlene. I am here to tell you a little story about a bipolar incident that Joe had not quite a year ago. I told you maybe a couple weeks ago that on August 7, we celebrated 1 year of being back together. But when I say back together, I mean 1 year of having started to see each other again after a 3-month break. And even in that 3-month break, we had some communication for maybe the first month. Anyway, you can go watch that video. I'll link to that video in the description of this video. And I want to tell you more about our story, and I want to tell you more about other stories too, other things that have been going on in my life, the more personal stuff. And I know that, some of you just don't like that. I have a thing on my nail that's rough. I'm trying to smooth it out with the other nail. Here's the deal. I have always just talked about my life on this channel, including the things that I do, like sewing and crocheting, because that's part of my life. It was part of my life way before YouTube. It's been since I was a child that I did these things and that I was crafty. And I started YouTube mainly just doing silly things and whatever. And then I, thought, look, why don't I share the crafts that I know? Things like that. But one of the things I liked the most when I started YouTube, almost 11 years ago, is, 11 years ago, this is August. I think I joined in August. I think my first video went up in September, so 11 years on YouTube. Right. Yes. And one of the things I really liked about it is that at that time, 11 years ago, I was a hermit, had been a hermit for a long time, just staying at home with my mother, working from home, and I had a way to talk and not have to actually have a conversation. Like, if I talked to my mother, that could all go wrong. So I, really didn't do much talking to anyone. I wasn't really hanging out with any relatives. I didn't have any friends, and so it was freeing for me to be able to talk on YouTube. And then of course I went through the whole comments thing, which I got tired of, and then I turned comments off for 4 years. Then I turned them back on for like 2 more. So I had them on for a little while, enough to make me mentally ill. I don't know if you just saw that. A little thing flew. Obviously I have them off again, and I'm very happy with that. And if you do want to communicate with me, and I think I didn't know this, I keep saying become a free patron in Patreon, and I thought you could direct message me, but I don't think you can. But you should be able to comment under public posts like my videos. My daily chats are not public, so you can't read those unless you're a paid member. It starts at $5 a month, and then there's a $10 level for cheaper prices on fabric. I'm not trying to push you to go to Patreon, but do become a free member of Patreon. The link is in the description, because I put all my videos there. So like for this video, if you'd like to comment on this video, you can inside Patreon. I assume. I don't know. I don't, know much of anything. It's just a payment process center. I don't have anything to do with your accounts or anything like that. So I really don't know how it works. But since I do have comments off on YouTube, my YouTube members, those are people who pay, again, for my fabric deals, you can't comment to me on YouTube because I have comments off on YouTube. You can become a free patron, even though you're a YouTube member. Free patron, you pay nothing, and then you could comment on my videos there. Okay, and why do I leave comments on videos there? Because it is not extreme like all the people who would leave comments on YouTube. Also, if somebody gets out of hand, or I don't care for the type of things they're saying in my space, I can block them. And I can't block people from commenting on YouTube anymore. I know people think you can, but you can't. They can still comment. You can hide them, but the comments still show up in my eyeballs, and I don't need that. So, all right, this is not what this video is about, but, you know, I'm just trying to get back into doing more chats. I think I'll be doing them in the morning, or it's afternoon right now, because then I, know I can get them done. So I'm going to try for a few per week, maybe 2 or 3 per week. We'll see how it goes. Joe, we got back together after a 3-month break on August 7. And like I said, I have a video about that. I can't remember every detail of everything, but I remember this. When he had this bipolar episode, it was after he put himself into treatment. His treatment was for mental health. He never relapsed with drinking or drugs. I know when people hear treatment, they think it's a relapse for those things, but no, you can go to treatment for mental health, and that's what he did. And I remembered that I didn't see Rocket at the beginning, but then when he put himself into treatment, I took care of Rocket. And I'm looking right now, I'm going to look, and I'll show you that image right here. That image was taken September 19, 2024, at an outdoor thing, and I had Rocket. I was taking care of Rocket because Joe was in treatment. So I know that this incident happened after that because he went to treatment and he was on meds, but he was not living here full time. I think that might have happened maybe at the end of October, so like a full 3 months he would just visit, didn't have a key, things like that. Oh, and I remember now, when I talked about the first video, how I went with him to be admitted to treatment to help with paperwork and all that stuff, and I'm better with timelines and things. And I said we had to go back home, and I couldn't remember why they wouldn't take him that night. We had to go back home, and I had to sign something saying I was responsible for him that night because they wanted to admit him that night. It's because his blood sugar was high because he's diabetic. So instead of taking him, they were going to take him by ambulance to the hospital. And he just kept saying, all I need is my insulin. And he had it because he thought he'd be staying, and he brought his insulin, but they locked everything up before, and they would not let him take his insulin. And I know how he is. And I said, look, all he just needs is a shot, and that's nope, they would not, because if they keep him, they're responsible, and they wanted him to be hospitalized. It happened that we were going to have an appointment the next day at his doctor. So that's why they said they either had to take him and take him to the hospital, or we had to just go and they were not going to be responsible for anything. But because we had an appointment with his primary care the next day, they said, if you promise that you go and get a paperwork or whatever about your condition, telling us that it's okay to have you here if your sugar's going high or low, because they said anytime he had a sugar high or low, he was going to have to go to the hospital. He did not want to go to a treatment center and have to be dealing with that. And and then I had to keep him that one night and make sure everything was cool. So that's how come we went back to my apartment, and that morning, he had his appointment. He got the paperwork, his primary care. She is so awesome. And all that, and then we called the treatment center and said, we have the permission. And it was basically saying, treatment center, you don't have to be responsible. He will know what to do. And so they were able to give him his insulin while he's there, as long as they didn't want to be held responsible for not taking him to the hospital. He was going to make that decision if he wanted to go to the hospital or not. All right, it was a big mess. So that's why we had to wait the next day. I knew there was something. Okay, so when he went to treatment, I was taking care of Rocket. I think that's what I was saying. And when he got out, he was still going to stay at his friend's. It's an older woman that he's known for 20-something years. And she used to let him stay there every now and then if he needed a place to stay. And so I think he knew her back in his drinking and drug days, if I remember right. That's why she used to let him, stay and hang out or whatever. I don't know. That's a long time ago. When he went to treatment, I was taking Rocket. I didn't want his friend to be responsible for Rocket for however long he was going to be there. So that's why I have Rocket in that image. We went to see a band in Hernando Square, and I had my little Rocket with me. And that's my friend Cherie. I talk about Cherie often in my daily chats. She's my dancing buddy. She's my very good friend. Not just a dancing buddy, but very good friend. Her and John, her husband John. And we are, usually the two couples together. Me and Joe, and John and Cherie. When Joe got out, he went and stayed with his friend, Miss B. I call her Miss B. And we saw each other every now and then. So I'm thinking maybe end of September, I'm going to say, is when he had this episode. I know he had stayed 2 nights at her place. We didn't see each other, and he didn't take his meds. So his meds were working good, and I didn't think too much of it. I was like, what's 2 nights going to do? Well, since then, I don't know if he's missed ever except one. One time I noticed that the pill that helps him with bipolar was left in his little thing, so it didn't get dumped out. But I wasn't too worried about it, because now I know how to handle things. But at the time, I didn't really know too much still about bipolar, but I just knew I need to be calm, and I don't need to see this as him being just a fucking asshole. He's bipolar, he's probably going through an episode, or it's his sugar. And he would not let me test his sugar, so that's one sign that it's on the bipolar end, because he always lets me test his sugar if I say I need to test you. That's fine. But I don't even remember really what started it. It was just something that happened, and probably just things we said to each other, and all of a sudden he gets this very calm demeanor and said he's going to go live in the woods. Now, he has said that since, but not to this degree. He didn't even make it to the van. He just decided, because I said, why don't you stay here and go to the woods in the morning? Because Rocket's tired. Oh, and he laid down. But it's always the woods. Joe has lived in the woods, and I have proof, because a woman from AA, one time, she's like, Joe from the woods. And I talked to her, and she goes, oh yeah. She goes, he'd go through periods. This is when he was drinking and drugging, and he lived in the woods. And so I have people who validate Joe's stories, which are, some of them are just unbelievable. And I've met some of these people who have slept under bridges with him. And, it's just a weird story. So little by little, I want you to get to know Joe more. And, he's not that man anymore. I remember him sitting in the chair, and I wanted to test him. He wouldn't let me. And then he said he was leaving. He always takes Rocket if he leaves, because there are times that he has left, which is one of our big issues, which is why we had split up, because I didn't understand all that shit that he was doing. And I knew I could not stop him. I knew I couldn't, because things would escalate. Never physical, but it was better for me to just let him go than to try to say, no, I want you to stay here. Because if I say that now in his head, he thinks that he can hurt me by saying I'm leaving. And just now he can start to escalate and things like that. So I said, okay. And I can't remember everything else. He didn't grab stuff to take with him, so I thought that was a good sign. Takes the dog, he gets in his van, and my thing is I'm going to follow him. So I wait just a little bit, and I start to follow him. You think I can follow him? He's on the highway. I lose sight of him. So I call him. I am not one to talk on the phone while driving, and I certainly didn't want to interrupt him. But I knew it wasn't safe for him to be on the road, because I knew his state of mind, and I knew something is wrong. And if it is his sugar levels, that's, to me, almost more dangerous on the road than being bipolar. Bipolar, he can, not just all of a sudden have a stroke because of his sugar, stuff like that. So I get him, and I said, where you going? I think he had told me he was going to an AA meeting. So I knew the direction of that meeting, but I knew there was a chance he probably wouldn't end up going there. So I'm just like, hi, I just thought I'd go to the meeting with you. And I'm, following you, but I lost you, and I just, wanted to make sure that you knew that I was coming to the meeting. And he said, well, I am going to the meeting, but I'm just dropping Rocket off, and then I'm leaving. And I said, oh, and seriously, this is how I'm talking to him. And I'm like, oh, where are you going to go? Now, some of these things make me laugh. I don't want you to think that I thought it was funny then. I was very scared, very concerned. I did not laugh at him, and I'm not laughing now because I think mental health issues are funny. But it's just fucking funny sometimes after. And I watch a lot of people who tell their bipolar stories. Usually they're telling by somebody else had told them how they acted. And, they're laughing about it, So it's like, it is fucking funny in a way. And I have to have some kind of a release after the fact, And so, so I said, where are you going? And he said, I know a homeless place where they perform executions. I'm sorry, I know everybody thinks I'm awful. But again, you have to remember that I'm used to a lot of things that he has said that all of a sudden made sense, that I thought he was narcissistic and just fucked up and what the hell's wrong with this guy. But now I had learned some things because he was in treatment, and I read everything treatment gave me, so I understood better. So I say to him, really? They have homeless places that execute people? And he goes, yes. He goes, I will be executed tonight. And I'm like, but wait a minute. I said, but what about Rocket? He goes, I'll leave him with somebody that I know will take care of him. I said, but how about me? Because when he's like that, he doesn't want me to have Rocket. It's like he wants to hurt me in that way. And I said, okay then. I said, if you think you leave him with somebody good, then I won't bother to go there. But I don't know the exits I'm coming up to. I said, I don't want to bother going all the way to the meeting, which was in Memphis. So can you stay with me for a little bit on the phone, and then I'll tell you what exit I'm coming up to, and you can tell me how to get home. I mean, I'm just trying to stay with this guy. And a couple times we had to hang up for whatever reason. He just wanted to hang up, or he's like, yes. So he starts, and again, we might have hung up and got back on the phone, and I tell him what exit, and he's like, take that exit, then you're going to take a right, and you're going to do this. And I did that stuff. We might have hung up again, and, again, might be him that, well, I have to hang up right now, I have to turn this play. So I was always the one calling him back. And so I called him back, and he said, I've decided I'm not going to drop Rocket off. I think I need to go to the hospital. And I was like, okay, which hospital? And you let me know, and I'll go there too. And he said, I'm going to go to South Haven. So that's now a drive back for him. We were well past South Haven. I know at one point I said, okay, I need to be hands-free here because I need to maneuver through this traffic. And so I said, well, hang up. I said, as soon as I can, I'll call you back. He's like, okay. He goes, I'm on my way to the hospital. And so when I was free, I called him again, and he said, I'm at the hospital. And I said, I'm almost there. He goes, but I'm leaving. I just want to go home now. And I said, why don't you just go in? I'll come in, and it wasn't hot, so we weren't worried about Rocket being in the car for a little while and stuff. But no, he said, I want to come home. And I said, all right, I'll see you home. And we hung up. At that point, it's like maybe a 10-minute drive from where we were, 10, 15 at the most. He was here a little bit before me. And I pulled up, and he didn't have his key yet, so he was just waiting for me. I don't think so. Yeah, so it wasn't key time yet, so it had to be at the end of September, beginning of October. I think I didn't give him a key till the end of October. And we came in, and we said nothing to each other. I was just so glad that he was home. I know Rocket went to bed with him. I went to bed with him. And that was it. I didn't even ask about checking his sugar. I had a feeling it wasn't that, because it was different. It was different than what I was used to seeing. I know it wasn't a sugar low, because he's almost like comatose when his sugar's really low. And the next morning, I asked him if he remembered. He remembered none of it. Absolutely none of it. And I believe that. Because the others that I listen to don't remember those things either. So I made sure after that when he would stay at Miss B's, that I would make sure, let me know when you take your pills, and specifically that pill. And he, he would tell me that he took it, and if he didn't, I would ask, make sure you take your pill. And there have been maybe 2 other incidences, but they were minor. One time he's just in bed with me, and he gets up and he gets fully dressed, and it's, middle of the night. And I said, where are you going? He said, to live in the woods. And I said, why? He's like, because I just need to live in the woods. And I said, all right. And, again, I just don't like him taking things, because sometimes he'll just start throwing all kinds of things in bags, and it's such a pain in the ass to get that all straightened out again, especially when he takes his meds with him. It's like, I have a setup, I know where everything is. And so I said, what about Rocket? I said, I can keep him if you want to go to the woods tonight. And he said, no, I'm taking him. And I said, but look, he's sleeping. Rocket's sleeping, so he's so tired. I said, why don't you just lay down and you can go to the woods in the morning? And he did. He went back to bed now with clothes on, and he just covered up. So it's just a little episode like that. Now that I have no clue if it's bipolar, if he's just dreaming something. But he seems to find comfort in the idea of going to the woods. And oddly enough, he was very comforted with the thought of being executed. Jeez, Joe. And there is no homeless community doing that. So those were things that I dealt with. And then there might have been another incident or two, but again, minor, not scaring me like that. And I wasn't so much scared that he was going to be executed. I knew I was scared that he's on the road driving. That's what I didn't like. And we did a huge circle. And when I knew we were heading home, I was like, oh, hopefully this is the last stop home. We're gone full circle. So, so become a free patron. And under this video, share any bipolar experiences you've had. Go look for this video on Patreon. And I don't know if... I think you have to be at least a free member to be able to comment. Isn't that something that I don't know these things? My videos are public, so maybe public people can, I don't know, go try. And I guess I could always have Joe just go to my Patreon and see if he can comment. But I think you have to be, a member, a free member at least. I don't know. We'll all learn together. Right, just like I had to learn about Joe together with people who help his mental health. All right, you guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will continue to tell some little stories. And, like I said, if you can get into leaving comments under a video, whether you're a free member or just the public, do that and let me know what other kind of things you'd like to know about me and Joe, or about my business, or about, there's other things I want to talk about, drinking, why right now I'm not going to AA anymore. I do have an AA story that I want to tell you that, that really hurt me and Joe and kind of sucked the life out of me, because I don't go there to control my drinking, nor does Joe. I mean, he goes because he's been going for almost 29 years now. He's going to be 29 years sober in September. And he's always gone, so it's a family to him. And in the almost 2 years that I've been going, it has become a family to me. I've made a lot of friends, that not drinking friends. Oh, not that I have drinking friends still, but you know what I mean. Not friends just from bars, but from other things in life. So I don't need AA for that. I liked it for the life skills that I was learning and how to be happy with sobriety, because I thought if I was a sober person, I just had to live this kind of mundane life that I was living. And no, I didn't have to do that. So I would like to talk more about that and all that stuff. All right, I'm going to hang up now. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back with more soon. Bye.